having confidence in yourself that you can keep on getting back up, because you're going to fall down. There's no question about it.
What is up? What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, founder and podcast producer at Max Podcasting, and you can email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 150 million, ignore the million, episode 150. Can you believe it? And today's guest is the legendary celebrity hairstylist, serial entrepreneur, and beyond, Jim Markham. Jim is an absolute pioneer in the hair care industry, founded several different companies, including Pureology, which later sold to L'Oreal for $280 million. That's not doll hairs, dollars. He came up under Jay Sebring and has the craziest client list you'll ever hear of. And his remarkable on top of remarkable story includes everything from pimps to Playboy to Paul Newman, and of course his best-selling memoir and entrepreneurial guide, Big Lucky. It is Jim the Man Markham, who, by the way, was recording from, I'm sure, just a beautiful part of Hawaii where the connection wasn't always the strongest, so you'll notice some of that, but bear with it. It's truly a remarkable and remarkable journey. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with the one and only Jim Markham. Awesome serial entrepreneur and beyond. Jim, thanks for joining. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful, Max. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. I'm right with you. It's just a pleasure on top of pleasure. But Jim, thank you so much. So many amazing things in your life and career. So many just inspiring and actionable tips to get to. But the place I want to start at is, what does the game of checkers mean to you?
Interesting question. You know, I started playing checkers when I started cutting hair. I was a 15-year-old barber and father of one child, and I started playing checkers in a barber shop. And I had an old man, probably my age, actually, as I think back, taught me how to play checkers. And it's been a lifelong thing, playing checkers. And I actually made a living doing that during a big lawsuit with Pureology in the old days, in the 70s. And I often played a lot of pimps on Sunset Boulevard checkers, because they learned how to play oftentimes in jail, and I learned how to play in a barbershop. So I made a living actually playing checkers with pimps on Sunset Boulevard.
That could be the name of like a best-selling music record. Playing checkers with pimps on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. They play really well, and I mean, I'm a master checker player, and maybe a little above that, but it's a great game. I like it a lot.
You were in incredible circumstances then, kind of learning to play the game, making some money that way. What was it like kind of having your back against the wall when things are tight, and just knowing that, hey, I got to find some way to pull some money, pull some things together here?
It's very awkward and very scary. I know I had a big lawsuit, and the partners were kicked out of the company, and we all had to scramble to earn a living. And I was cutting hair back then. It was right in the beginning of men's hairstyling, which we created men's hairstyling. And I was trying to train other barbers how to do men's hairstyling, and my other partners didn't want me to make a living that easily, so they got a quarter saying I was hurting the business to do training, which it didn't. It helped the business, but I was completely thrown out of training, and lost most of the celebrity phone numbers back then. I had Paul Newman, I had Johnny Carson, I had Robert Redford and Steve McQueen. And I kind of lost track of them for a couple of years. So I had to play pool, and I was really only a little better than most of them playing pool. So sometimes I'd lose. That was close call. But checkers, I could win consistently. And I had to find a way to make money. And that's how I managed to make money, was playing checkers for about a year and a half.
Oh my God. So it's a year and a half of that. I mean, you hear about people these days losing their cell phone or getting it dropped in water or losing some contacts or something, but you don't hear often of losing the contact information for Paul Newman, Robert Redford, people in that vein.
Phones weren't all that readily, you know.
Exactly.
Fax machine, I think, was popular, best I remember. But I really didn't have a place to stay there for a while. For a while, I was staying with different girls and trying to survive, really. And but I lost out. And then of course, when we came back and started another company, then I got them right back and was back in the saddle again. But for a year and a half, it's pretty scary. And I don't know how I survived it, actually, in hindsight, but it was a tough time. Checkers taught me critical thinking. Checkers is all about strategy and moves. When you're playing checkers, it's about making the right decisions and creating strategies that, of course, hopefully will win. That's what I learned from checkers, is how to win with whatever pieces you got. So checkers was very helpful in life, learning how to win or lose, actually, with whichever way you're going. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, but you develop strategies, and one of the strategies I used was called Old 14, which is going up the middle. Then there's other strategies going to the right side, to the left side, and then variations. But I learned a lot about how to win playing checkers. That was really helpful for me.
It's actually an incredible analogy. It works for life, win or lose.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got their share of ups and downs, but
they sure do.
Looking at the game as a symbol for that is perfect. Let's get to your hair care journey and kind of entry into the business world. We'll, of course, get to some of your favorite life and business lessons as well. What pulled you into hairstyling and hair care in the first place?
Ended up being a 15-year-old father and was married. I needed to make a living, and I was really too young to really get a job. My mother said, "Why don't you go to barber school? Uncle Clarence always did pretty well." I fibbed about my age. So I said I was 16 instead of 15 and went to barber school and became a barber. And I managed to make a pretty good living cutting hair. I did well, except for a lot of people didn't want me to cut their hair because I looked too young. Other than that, I finally managed to cut enough hair to do my goal, which was $150 a week. I started cutting hair at $1.50 a haircut and $2 for flat tops for a long time. And I actually made a decent living, and I grew from that. That was really helpful for me to get a job and have a family. And that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me in life, was to have a family at a young age, because I really didn't have much of a family life and I'd get in a lot of trouble. So it really helped me to do that.
Yeah, I bet you grow up pretty quick when you have kids at that age. Big thank you to Uncle Clarence, because obviously a big inspiration there in the hair space.
He paved the way.
Or you could say shave the way or trim the way.
Yeah, that's right. Shave the way.
You're starting to cut hair. People are kind of looking at you like, what's this kid doing here? But then obviously at some point they realize that, hey, you were pretty good at what you did. When did you personally realize that I could actually have a career in this industry?
I think I was 17. There was a contest. Back then men's hairstyling was brand new, and I was cutting hair. I was a barber. I wasn't. So we took a men's hairstyling course on how to style hair and, raise our price to $5 instead of $1.50 and do razor cutting and so forth. So I started entering competitions, and there was a competition in Amarillo, which I won the Southwest Championship. I won the national championship in Dallas, Texas. I won an Olympics of hair cutting, they called it, in Cincinnati. I won the Colorado State Championship. I was winning awards in Mexico all around, determined that I was pretty good at it. I never really lost doing that. So I was quite confident that I was good, yet I was still only able to do about 50% hairstyling and 50% regular haircuts. So that was a little bit discouraging to me. That's when I read in Playboy that Jay Sebring was charging $50 a haircut. Now it's a 1965 Playboy. I still got the Playboy book. It looks brand new.
I was going to say, I think Playboy has probably changed quite a bit since that issue.
Yeah. And he was charging $50 a haircut. And I called him and said I wanted to see what he was doing and able to charge 10 times more than me. And I heard he had a product line which I wanted to distribute. And so he said, why don't you come out here and let's cut some hair? And I said, listen, if you don't have the best haircut, haircutting technique, we can use mine. He said, you're pretty confident with yourself. He said, why don't you come out here? We'll see. I did. And we cut Van Johnson's hair. He cut a half. I cut the other half. And sure enough, he was better than I was. He's doing something I didn't do, which was shape the hair, shape the frame of the face with the hair. And that was really unique and revolutionary. You know, I became his protege. I opened a franchise in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And that was a big, big advantage for me to meet Jay Sebring back in those days.
You're reading Playboy. I'm sure you're thinking, this is a great place to find my eventual mentor. How did it go about of actually getting in contact with him?
You know, it's interesting. He took my call. I called Sebring in California, and he actually took my call, which is amazing to this day. I wondered why he took my call. And he listened to me. I said, look, I'm the champion hairstylist. I'm in New Mexico, and I'm charging $5 a haircut, and I want to distribute. I was really interested in his product line. I always thought selling products was a good idea, even at a young age. And he had a product line. He wasn't doing much with it, but it was a good product line. It was a shampoo, conditioner, and a hairspray. And he said, yeah, you can distribute my products. So I flew out, and he made me a franchisee for Albuquerque. So he set the first franchisee in Albuquerque. So we moved from Farmington, a little town in northern New Mexico, to Albuquerque, put in a styling shop called Sebring International. We slept on the floor the first 2 months, or a cot actually. And then we'd drive back to Farmington on the weekends. And then after about 2 months, it just took off like a wildfire, just booming. We started doing really well. I was a licensed pilot at 17. I had a plane with a partner. We traveled all around New Mexico and Texas and trained other barbers how to do men's hairstyling and sell Sebring products. That's how I got started with Sebring and selling Sebring product back in those days.
I'm sure this could be like a 12-hour episode. What are some of the top lessons you learned about business from Jay?
Jay was amazing with his talent. He was a playboy. He was like 125 pounds, 5'5", very charming. Everyone loved him. Everyone respected him. He was tremendously talented. I learned how to take care of people. I think how to be respectful, how to take care of customers, how to overcome their objections, how to sell the cut, how to sell the product. One of the things Jay was, he was the front man guy that had all the celebrities. I was kind of like ended up being the talent and the mechanic, but I knew how to teach the method, and I knew how to go and get in the trenches and go into salons and teaching 500 or 3. So that's what made it so good is Jay would listen to people well. I learned how to listen. I learned how to talk. I learned how to not get too overbearing. When I was a little younger, I was like pretty aggressive and wanted to cram it down everybody's throat. And he was really soft. So I learned a lot from Jay about selling the method. And shortly thereafter, we did Sebring, and shortly thereafter, he was killed in the Charles Manson murders with Sharon Tate. That changed my life amazingly. I moved to California. I moved into Jay's house. I took over Jay's black Porsche. I took over his clientele, which included, Paul Newman, Johnny Carson, Frank Sinatra, James Garner, Peter Lawford, and a whole host of other male celebrities. I did cut a lot of women, but I always got recognized for doing the men. The men that got, it's hard to overcome Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, Frank Sinatra, the women kind of got left out. So I learned a lot from him. And then when I took over his business, I had to try to adapt from a $5 barber in New Mexico to a $50 barber in Hollywood. I was scared to death. Not that I couldn't do the work. I knew I could do the work. I wasn't sure I could fit in as this little country bumpkin from New Mexico, trying to fit in with this big time celebrity hairstylist and his celebrity clientele. I did that. The way I did it, I think, was I tried to be more businesslike. I tried not to get too personal because I thought they'd find me out if I got too personal. I kind of kept it professional, and I managed to survive that.
And I appreciate you bringing up uh, everything that happened with Manson, and it's such a crazy, surreal thing because anybody growing up in the past few decades knows about the Manson murders and what happened there, but not many people you speak to were like personally firsthand affected. And for you, it literally changed your life.
I literally walked in his shoes. I lived in his house. I even had a lot of his girlfriends. That was before my wife, of course. She doesn't like me saying that, but and friends and celebrity clientele. So it's really interesting how to live right there with him, to go through that was most amazing journey of my life, the most exciting time. I'm in the 70s. I'm like 24, 25 years old, and had a black horse, had these private memberships to the private clubs, the candy store, the Bumble and Bumble. Just an amazing time of my life. And I actually pulled it off. It was something, but I learned a lot from all of it. One of the things I think that I wrote in my book, Big Lucky, which is really about not so much of winning, or it's just a lot about winning, but it's falling down. We all fall down a lot, and it's getting back up. I don't care what you're doing or how good you are, you will stumble and you will fall, and sometimes it's hard to get up. I believe God made you to win. We are all equal in the ability to win at what we do. We're all made to win. Grasp that, keep getting up, and keep attacking, and you will win. We're made to win.
That's a phenomenal lesson. There's so many things that cause you to fall down, but I think there's kind of varying degrees of it. What you went through and what you came out of, and really the transition of what you went into, is one of the most severe things that you can face out there. How do you get yourself to get back up and keep plugging along when it is something, as extreme as a death of someone close to you or something in that nature?
I think, we just have to have faith in God, or faith in Buddha, whatever your religion is, and faith in yourself that you really are made to win. When you think about it, we choose to lose. We choose not to keep getting back up. And of all the things I've gone through, and I've been involved in 7 different companies, founded 4. I think I've had more haircare companies than anybody else that's ever been in the business. But
about 7 more than I have, that's for sure.
yeah, Pureology was probably the cat's meow. It reached a tipping point from start to finish was 6 years, and we sold it to L'Oreal in the 6th year for $280 million cash. So it was a phenomenal adventure. But I owned part of Sexy Hair, Alterna, Colorproof, Markham products, Sebring products. I go into a lot of detail about getting up and falling down in my book, Big Lucky, which we've had out about a year now, and it's doing quite well. But I break it down in great detail. But getting up is something you got to practice. And to get up and expect to win is something you've got to have confidence and faith in. But you got to keep getting up. You're going to win if you keep getting up. And that's hard to understand, but it is the truth.
It is. It makes me think of like it was one of the Rocky movies they did like way after the original Rocky movie, but like basically the moral of the story was like it's not about how many punches you throw, it's like how many punches you can take and just keep going.
And keep going forward. That's right. I really believe that's really a simplistic way to say it, but you really got to keep going. I know there were times where I didn't think I could keep doing it. I really didn't think I could keep doing it. But I kept having faith. I remember going, strange enough, I remember going to a hypnotist, not a hypnotist, a mystic, a fortune teller.
Well, I'll give you a hypnotist.
Yeah, hypnotist. Fortune teller. And I said, what should I go back home, or should I stay? We had a big lawsuit, and I had 2 partners that's trying to kick my tail and put my tail between my legs and go home. And I said, should I stay or should I go home? She said, absolutely stay. You're just about to win. I thought, that's what I thought. So I jumped on that, and I believed it. And sure enough, not long after that, I won. But I think reaching for things that give you confidence, whether it's friends, whether it's advice, whether it's praying, going to church or whatever, I think that's an essential part of winning. It's an essential part of life. Having confidence in yourself that you can keep on getting back up, because you're going to fall down. There's no question about it.
You mentioned your hair care businesses. And so I want to dive kind of the success story. I mean, there's lots of success stories, but especially like the glowing, crazy, turnout of Pureology. How did you make the transition from, working on people's hair directly to creating brands that help people's hair? And I guess you could help a lot more people that way.
Yeah, it kind of by hook or crook. I was J.C. Green's protege and later his successor. So Jay always told me, listen, you're the only one who can do what I'm doing. He did have, 17 stylists in his shop on Hollywood Boulevard, not Hollywood Boulevard, Fairfax and Vine. But they couldn't do what I did. I was good at teaching other stylists in a remote area. I would go in with my plane and I would teach them how to cut hair. One of the things that had happened to me was when Jay was killed, I flew to California and took over his position. I took over his car, his house, and I took over his company. The company was failing and his parents wanted to sell the assets. So they put it up for auction to sell to the highest bidder. And I outbid the then president for the company with my public relations company and my other partner. So I became owner of Sebring when it was really kind of failing. I went out on the road and started opening more distributors that would sell a product. I would go open barber distributors that might open another 4 or 5 or 6 shops in their town. So I had like 75 distributors, and each one of them selling 4, 5, 6 shops in their town. That's how we did it. It's a hard way to go because barbers are hard to get to do anything, much less sell anything. And so that was our business model: have barbers, have small territories, and sell to other shops the Sebring method, and later then Markham products, same thing. And that's how we built our business. Then with Sebring, we fell into a lawsuit, and then we started Markham products, and then sold Markham products after 8 years. Then I started Ava Pure and Natural products, and that lasted 8 years. And then we did Pureology, which lasted 6 years. That was the rocket ship. And then I started Colorproof after that. Now, along the way, I owned Sexy and Alterna, and I had interest in them. But that's how I got into it. Kind of fell into it when Jay got killed. There's nobody else to take his place but me. So I got in. I started working on the products. I loved the product development. I loved cutting celebrities' hair and giving them products that they really liked. And we developed a whole strategy, and we called it the $55 haircut for a whole lot less at your Markham Style Innovator shop, which was like Joe Barber in New Mexico would use the $55 haircut for a whole lot less. I charged $15. So he's giving my haircut, but he's only charging $15. So we promoted the $55 haircut for a whole lot less, and stylists across the nation was using my name, my price that I charge for a haircut, but they charge $10 to $15. That worked very well for a long time.
It's amazing. Like, there's different things that you learn along the way for each one. But I mean, this all started with you kind of being forced into it. Probably a lot more than you bargained for when you reached out to Jay initially.
Oh yeah, it really was. Back early in my days, when I did the men's hairstyling and I put the Sebring shop in Albuquerque, I used to do, when I had really no clout, I would create my clout and I would put a little ad in the paper and I'd make it look as more like PR as I could. And it would say, ask Jim Markham. So it'd ask Jim Markham, I'd ask myself a question, I'd answer the question, like, doesn't shampooing daily dry your hair out? Answer, Jim Markham. No, it doesn't dry out. In fact, it's the best thing you can do. So that was an effective way of marketing yourself. It still is. If you're going to do a flyer or an email or a text, social media, is ask yourself the question. You ask yourself the question and answer it. And nobody's going to tell your story as well as you can. That was a very effective way of doing it the way I started. And then as I got more clout and I got more wins behind me, then you up the game a little bit.
And speaking of marketing, I know one of the biggest marketing successes you've ever had, maybe the most, came within Pureology. And obviously, I think you mentioned 6 years, sold for $280 million, part of over $1 billion in hair care products that you've sold or helped create. What do you think is the biggest reason or approach that led to the success of Pureology?
That's a great question. I actually put a few things down here that I wanted to share with you. One of the things we saw was there was nothing in the category for color treated hair. There was absolutely nothing for color treated hair. Pureology started with a phone call. Cheryl has a friend named Carrie that had ovarian cancer, and she called me up. She said, Jim, I need you to make some products for me that are good for ovarian cancer. I have cancer. My oncologist says, here's a list of ingredients I can't use, and I can't use any of your ABBA products. There's only 3 in the line of 35 that I can use. And I had no idea what clean products were or how that affected the body or cancer or anything like that. So we set out to develop the first sulfate-free shampoo in existence. We created the first and only sulfate-free shampoo that was carcinogen-free, that was 100% vegan, that didn't have any salt. She could use it. Creating that product for her, and she later died, but she was using the product. We then looked at it, and it was keeping color in longer. It was keeping color in, and we noticed there was a big void for color treated hair. In fact, there was nobody had anything for color treated hair. So we said, we gotta get something for color treated hair. And we started testing it. It did keep color in longer. So we weren't sure, by the way, that color treated hair exclusively would work. There was nobody out there. L'Oreal had a product out there for a while called Color V that seemed like it might be working, but maybe it wasn't, because it didn't stay very long. We said, we got to take a chance. We're going to do it. It's exclusively for color treated hair. No one had. We did it sulfate free. The only reason we did sulfate free was because it was a milder, gentler product than sulfates. We didn't know it would be worldwide, and people are using it in toothpastes and laundry detergent. It became a runaway hit. We did sulfate free. We also did anti-fade complex. Anti-fade complex, we put that on the bottle, so people would say it doesn't fade, anti-fade. Very creative marketing strategy. We did anti-frizz, very important strategy. We did that. And on every bottle, one of the most important things we did was on the back of the bottle, we put longer lasting hair color guaranteed. So what happens with a consumer is they'll pick up a bottle, I see it on the shelf, they pick it up, they look at the front, Pureology, anti-fade complex, they turn it over, longer lasting hair color guaranteed. They take the cap off, they smell it. If they don't like the smell, they put it down, they don't buy it. If they like the smell, they buy it. So it's a 3-step thing: front, back, smell, buy, or set it back. So we covered all those 3 areas that when they picked it up and they looked back, looked front and smelled it, they would buy it. We then, of course, looked at fragrancing. We knew we needed a better fragrance, a better story. We looked at fragrances that cost $100 an ounce, which is very expensive, by the way. And then we would reduce that down to a $20 fragrance. That was very unusual, because I know the perfumer at one point said, Jim, why are you looking at my $100 fragrances? You're not going to buy that. Kind of insulted me a little bit. And I said, look, I'm going to look at that because I know what I want to buy. I won't know a $100 fragrance from a $10 fragrance unless I smell it. So we got really expensive fragrances and then modified them so we could get the price and also get the aroma that we wanted. A very important part of that. So we had the fragrance, we had the story, we had the performance, we had the packaging, we had all the marketing materials we needed. We got the distribution, and it just went crazy, and it went fast.
There's so much there. Like, there's so many different product benefits and different call outs for the consumer. And so many of these things have lasted so long. Like on my end, my first job out of college was actually working for a company that makes laundry detergent and fabric softener. And I remember at the time, one of the other brands was thinking about introducing sulfate free into their detergent, into their packaging. And the rationale was that, this is something that's been popular in the hair care industry for a long time. So like literally what you've created, what you've done really has flown through to different segments there. It's just something that people care about. It's something that works.
Yeah, it really did. And we had no idea it'd be so big. We just knew sulfate free was better than sulfate. And we knew it worked better.
Right. It definitely sounds more appealing.
And we just said sulfate free. We had no clue that it would go like it. We see it all over the world, France, England. We see it everywhere. That was at first. We were first to market with that. We also were first with color products for color treated hair, exclusively for color treated hair. We were the first with a longer lasting hair color guaranteed, a first with that. Being first is really pretty important. When you're positioning a product, if you're just starting or you're in the middle somewhere, try to look at your point of difference. You've got to develop a point of difference from your competitors. You need to look at your competitors, say, what's their strength? What's their weaknesses? Try to penetrate the weaknesses and play down their strengths. But you need to play up your strengths. And sometimes that takes a little pondering of a competitor's strengths and weaknesses and come up with your own. And there's always something that you can find where you have a strength and a point of strength, and coming up with names like we did anti-fade or anti-fade complex, anti-frizz formulas, the really important stuff. Pureology, the science of pure. We thought that was all important, and it did end up being really important, and L'Oreal couldn't live without it, so we let them have it.
It sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
What do you think allowed you to be first with so many of these things?
We really worked it. We worked one solid year before we came out with products, from packaging to naming to trademarks, putting two words together, like pure was one word and ology was another, pureology. So putting two words together like anti-fade, anti-frizz, putting two words together, making one word was a creative, and it ends up being more trademarkable that way, as opposed to having one word. So having trademarkable names was important, but we worked pretty hard at it. And sometimes you get lucky. The harder you work, the luckier you get. Everything came together really well on that, and we had a lot of success with it. We back then when we did that, since then, everybody says, all the names are taken. You can't come out with a trademark name. It's all taken. You can put words together, though. You can put words together and make them work, or you misspell a word and make it work. Trademarking names is real important to your strategy and your positioning. Find words that really describes what you do, like anti-fade, pretty descriptive. Longer lasting hair color guarantee, pretty descriptive. Sulfate free, all those things. And sometimes you just get lucky. I mean, I think, that one just came together beautifully, because we've had other companies that did similar things, didn't work as well. Sometimes that tipping point just reaches that tipping point, it works. And by the way, the tipping point can happen really quickly. So when somebody's coming out with a product line, it could happen real quick, where you go from rags to riches overnight. I mean, we just soared from nothing to 280 million, like in a flash. And it's still going. Pureology is still going real big. It's all over the world now. We had 35 trademark names all worldwide. So when they bought it, they took it right around the corner. And then after that, we did Colorproof, which was a big success. It's still going. We sold that a year ago during the pandemic, which is pretty wild. Just an advanced version of what we did before. I think, of all the companies, every one of them had a different positioning, and they need a different position. They need to be positioned a little different. I mean, Pureology was maybe, in Colorproof, we were a little bit too close. It's both for color treated hair, but both worked well. We did Markham and Sebring. That was for men with daily shampooing and conditioning, which is the best thing you can do for your hair. Make your hair look the best. I love products. I love marketing. I love developing strategies and naming and positioning. I think it's really important and a fun thing to do.
Well, congrats on all the successes. Like it's really amazing how it's one company after the next, one brand after the next, and you've been able to grow these and sell them, and you're constantly doing the research and constantly figuring out, okay, what other product benefits do we have? What ways do we have to position this? It's just super inspiring, and so I appreciate you sharing all this today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We did a quite extensive thing in the book I just wrote, Big Lucky, that we break it down a lot. One of the things that I think that your listeners or any marketing person that's listening should think about is, what can I do that's not been done before? Right now, if I was working on hair care, which I might be in the future, you never know, is what's the next shampoo? What's the next shampoo going to do? What's next? What other ingredients could go in there? What's the possibility? What else can we do? Like, that's what I keep saying. What else can I do better? Just because we got sulfate free now doesn't mean there's, before sulfates, there was Brack shampoo in 1950. And they were sulfates. That's the best thing to come along then. And then we did sulfate free. So there'll be another thing come along, and you just got to keep looking ahead and say, what is next? What can I do better than anybody else? And what might that be? Explore it, examine it, and say, what can I do? That's what I do with hair care. If I could think of the perfect product, what could it do? What would it do? That is not being done now. Let's say you pick a shampoo, high lather, quick rinse, good feel, color protection, amazing aroma, and whatever features and benefits after that. So I think that's what you need to look at, whether it's selling a hamburger or selling a widget. You need to create points of difference. You need to find unique selling position of that product and develop a strong position for that product that's unlike your competitors. Look at your competitors, look at their strengths and weaknesses, and dwell in on their weaknesses and develop a point of difference that's unique to you.
Jim, you have me sold. I'm sure 100% that you could sell a hamburger and you could sell a widget. You got
well, I
all
like
those
hamburgers.
things. Yeah, great stuff. So I'd love to dive a bit more into your book, Big Lucky. You just for this interview, like there's so many amazing things in your life and so many amazing things that you have to share. It's really, really cool and special that you put it in book form. And you mentioned kind of the lesson of, sometimes you fall down, you just got to keep getting back up. What are some other key lessons that you want to make sure that readers come away with from this book?
Good question. One of the reasons we wrote the book was I have friends and colleagues and distributors and stylists and customers that said, from your life and your beginning, you got to tell the story of how did you get there? And that's really why I wrote it. And we have takeaways after each chapter that gives an example of what you can do about it, real action things, and then what can you do about it to make it better. It's important really to know that you can win. It's really important to know that you're a winner. It's important to know that when you get knocked down, you can get back up, and you should get back up. In fact, do not stay down. Do not stay down. Get back up and keep trying. I don't care what you're doing, where it's at. And the book really encompasses a lot of lessons, a lot of wins, a lot of failures. I call them failures. Getting knocked down, but getting back up, they're not really failures until you stay down. Staying down is not an option. Getting up is the only way to go. I think that should help. I mean, we use a lot of examples of different companies, 5 different companies exactly, of winning and losing and how we did it and how we survived. My childhood was a little bit of a tragedy. That my mother was an alcoholic, and I ended up only finishing the 9th grade and became a barber and was married and had a kid and went on to a lot of big success. I don't believe education alone is going to get you to the top. I don't believe it at all. I believe I didn't have it. I wish I had it, but I learned pretty much on the job training. And I learned a lot of things from a lot of different people because I studied a lot of different people and I read a lot of stories of success stories. But it's not just education, it's will to win. It's your will to win. And believing you can get up and keep getting up and go for it. Just go for it. Don't hold back. I think it's really important that not to hold back.
You're clearly a very positive person and kind of always have that passion to keep going. What helps to kind of keep yourself in that mindset of, all right, like whatever we're focusing on right now, that's our key focus. We're gonna do this as best we can, and then whenever we're done with that, all right, next thing, and it gets all our attention. How do you keep that?
Do you want to make any money, or do you not want any money? If you don't want to make any money, then quitting is an option. If you want to make money, you got to keep going, and you cannot let anything slow you down. You got to keep going. I read a lot of positive books, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Power of Positive Thinking. I just read, War Dog, about Nike. That was really interesting. I read a lot of motivational books because I get motivated by other people, and I like to hear their Shore Dog, the Nike story. Shoe Dog.
Yeah. We'll get it eventually.
Yeah, give me enough tries. I do that a lot, and I don't like to associate with too many negative people that's always running somebody down or I got something negative to say, 'cause I just don't have time for it. I mean, I just want to stay positive, and I want to be around positive people and read positive stories and try to stay as positive as I can. That's kind of a mindset that I try to stay into, although I'll fall down and drift off into negativity like everybody else. But I think it's important to keep getting back up, dusting yourself off, and saying, where am I? What am I doing now? What can I do? Because thinking positive or thinking negative is all in your mind. You can do it. It's up to you 100%, nobody else. So just knowing that and realizing where you're at, and doing it regularly, and you can do it once, you can do it twice. You can do it twice, it becomes a habit. So just keep doing it. I think it's important to keep doing it. One of the things in the book, we start from childhood all through the different companies, and we detail a lot of the failures that I had. I mean, I fell down a lot, and in all rights, most people say you shouldn't have been able to get back up, but yet we did. But I do believe we all can do that. It's not anything special. I mean, I don't think I got any special hidden powers about intelligence. I think we all have pretty much the same intelligence, the ability to focus and keep getting back up and will to win. That's the difference.
So let's positively transition to a fan favorite segment called the Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
The Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
Okay.
I know it's the most impressive thing you've ever heard, I'm sure. Wild Business Shout Out of the Week is where we talk about a creative marketing campaign approach that broke through really well. There's something you did with color care. Can you take us through what that is and why you think it works so well?
Oh, jeans fade. We created a whole new category, and we were first to market with color care. We were first to market with sulfate-free, and just the whole idea of keeping color in longer was brand new. And the competitors say, oh, well, ours do the same thing. Our product does the same thing. And just because they say that doesn't mean it's true. So our task was to make consumers aware of what we're doing and why it's better. We showed them a pair of old jeans instead of a pretty woman up there with pretty hair. We showed a pair of dirty jeans, faded. And then to the right, we saw a color treated hair woman with pretty color that hadn't faded. Jeans fade, color shouldn't. So we made people aware that your jeans and your color fades, but your color shouldn't, because you can use our products to keep color in, because we had Purology at the bottom. That's the most effective advertising campaign I think I've ever done, because it told consumers your hair color is fading, but it doesn't need to. And, pictures fade, your color shouldn't. Memories fade, your color shouldn't. Jeans fade, your color shouldn't. That was a real important part. We did that. I think we did 5 ads that year, and that's all we ever did with it. We never used it again, but our sales tripled. So I think when you have the right message to sell your story, to sell your product, when it resonates and it works, it really is powerful and will really help your sales a lot.
Why do you think the kind of side-by-side works so well?
I think, our competitors had women with pretty pictures that did style their hair. And, when you look into pretty women and good looking guys, and that's it. There's no point of difference. So when we did, jeans fade, color shouldn't, consumers got it. They understood, and our product stood out because it wasn't another pretty picture. It was, in fact, an ugly picture of jeans fading, and then a picture showing that it doesn't have to fade. So consumers got it, stylists got it, that we do have products that keep hair from fading. And that were really, it's kind of like the Wendy's commercial. Where's the beef? I think that was a tremendous campaign. And this is kind of like what we have. Where's the beef? Your color shouldn't fade, and it worked. And I don't know why they haven't repeated that. Where's the beef? I thought that was one of the best all-time ads of all time, but they only showed it once.
Right. I remembered seeing some T-shirts for it, but when something works, you'd think you'd want to keep doing it again, but
I recall looking at Wendy's. We looked at, which we trademarked Wendy's. The Wendy's owners were saying, don't run that ad anymore. We got too much business. I thought, I've never heard anybody say that. Got too much business.
Yeah, that sounds like a great problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's just a lot of things like that. I mean, finding that, like, where's the beef? I thought it was one of the best ones of all. With Amazon, overnight delivery changed everything. Overnight delivery guaranteed. Amazon changed the world with that thing.
They really did. I still can't believe that you like Amazon Prime. If you can get stuff in 2 days or less, free
Yeah.
shipping, by the way, you're right. It totally changed the world.
Revolutionary. Some simple idea like that changed the world.
So let's wrap up in a revolutionary fashion. See what I did there? Let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
You got it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get wild. What is a tip about flying a plane that you can share?
Don't fly a small plane. They're pretty dangerous. I had retractable landing gear, but they're pretty dangerous. You got to have a little more hours. 40 hours is all you required. You really need more than that to fly. You should have.
What about, I call them weird talents, but in addition to being really good at checkers and pool, billiards, what's something that you just have a knack for, you're really good at, that hasn't really impacted your business career, but you're just really good at it?
Interesting question.
Thank you.
I don't know what I'm good at.
You're very humble.
What am I good? What am I good at, Cheryl? We do yoga every day, but I'm not sure I'm good at it.
You're doing it though.
We're doing it.
Do you have a go-to yoga pose?
No. Well, I just had back surgery a month ago. I can't really bend over now, but yeah, I love the poses. Bend down, stretch your toes. I'm pretty flexible. I love to stretch a little bit indisposed right now, but yeah, I love yoga.
I appreciate you hanging in there through this interview post back surgery. I'm always metaphorically breaking people's backs with terrible jokes anyways. So you're taking it to a new level. Last one. This doesn't have to be rapid fire because I'm sure you got stories on stories, but however you'd like to approach it. But
okay.
You've had some of the coolest celebrity experiences and client relationships ever. What's a story that you can share about, whether it's Newman or Sinatra or Johnny Carson, whoever you want to shout out, but what's a really fond memory you have about working with one of those people that the average person would be extremely starstruck by?
I got probably 5 or 6 of them, but one of them that really comes to mind that I always recall is I'm cutting Paul's hair in Beverly Hills in the kitchen, and his wife Joanne comes in, and she walks to the front door. Paul's got hair all over him from cutting his hair, and he's got the cape on. He jumps up, he goes over to Joanne, says, "Hello, lovely lady," and kisses her on the lips. I'm thinking to myself, wow, the sex symbol of the world is this kind and this generous and romantic to his wife. What must a mere mortal like me do? I mean, it's like, whoa, what should I do? I mean, I'm just a normal guy here, and he's this romantic guy. I always stood out as something that he was very considerate. He was very kind guy, and his wife was very much the same way. They're really a brilliant couple. I know that there was something to see them together. They were the ideal couple.
Ideal couple. I think that's the ideal couple in a nutshell, is not caring about getting hair everywhere.
No, I thought that was amazing. I'd never seen that before.
That is amazing. And then, okay, I have to ask for one more then. Is there one more story you can share?
Steve McQueen was quite a guy. I'll tell this story. I mean, I cut his hair in Zuma, house was, and I cut his hair, and he showed me his motorcycle collection, which was 1916 Indians, 1912 Harleys, belt drive, hanging from the ceiling, stacked in rows in his garage, a 4-car garage. It was the most amazing collection I'd ever seen. And he was trying to sell me his 45 Harley. It was a 1945 Harley. He wanted me to buy it. I thought it was too much money. In hindsight, it was probably really cheap. But no, he had a most amazing Harley Davidson you've ever laid eyes on. Cutting these celebrities' hair was probably the most exciting, most memorable period of my whole life. And I learned so much from them about how to live better, how to have a better house, how to live the right life, whether it be food or the lifestyle. It was so rewarding to me. I still remember it. I do things today that I learned from all of them.
Well, Jim, this has been incredibly rewarding and memorable of an interview. Thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your tips, sharing everything from checkers to aviation to your business tips as well. Really, really appreciate your time. And of course, your amazing book, Big Lucky. Where's the best place for people to read Big Lucky, buy a copy themselves, and if there's anything else you want to shout out?
Amazon's got a Kindle. They've also got Audible and also got print. Probably the best way to get it. And the audio is really good, by the way, and the Kindle's good. So yeah, it's doing quite well. And I'm really glad I did the book. It took 18 months to write it, and we broke it down in a lot of detail on what we did and how we did it and how to win. It really was written to help other people be more successful in life.
Well, really glad you spent those 18 months doing it. I know so many are as well. And the last thing here, final thoughts. It could be a quote, a line, words to live by, whatever you want. Send us off here.
The world is a wonderful place, and it should be positive. I think we have to keep it positive as we can. It's up to us to really do it and be kind to one another and make this place as good as we can make it.
Holy smokes, Punxsutawney Phil. Thank you so much, Jim, for sharing your story, your lessons, your tips, your favorite IMDb pages, and more and more. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. 150 episodes even. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite app and tell a friend about the podcast. You can also find us on Good Pods. Check out some good pods. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at MaxPodcasting.com. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!